Hello!
Hi.
We are back with another one-off. This time we are reading... The fuck did you send me, Chelsea?
Don't worry about it. Look at it later.
Okay. Anyways, we're reading a fic called Coup by victorarmitage, and it is a Hetalia fanfiction because we have a friend joining us. Say hello!
Special guest.
Oh, hi.
This is Nizay. She's gonna be reading with us. Hopefully this will
Love
go
her.
okay.
I love you. Thank you.
The ship is America x Russia. I'm gonna read the tags. It is an explicit fic as usual. The tags are America Hetalia, Russia Hetalia, and Lithuania Hetalia. Additional tags are dubious consent, violence, and historical. Would you like to read the summary, Chelsea?
Sure.
Or read both the summary and the notes, please.
Oh. In the late 80s, the end of the Soviet Union is approaching, and America finds out in the worst way possible that Russia isn't taking it well. Country and character names used interchangeably, extremely dubious consent.
Wait, so as it's set at the fall of the Soviet Union. So, this will hopefully be good. I mean, we had to pick between this and the Vietnam War and the War of 1812, and this one happened to win it out, so trust me, you're in for a ride.
It's gonna be good.
So, our reading order will be, I guess I'll go first, then I'll have Meatloaf go after me, and then I'll have Nizzy go last, and then, I'll be doing the voice of Russia. Yeah, we know, the accent will suck. And then we'll have Meatloaf do the voice of America, because they were like, they didn't want to try an accent today, unfortunately. So you have to deal with me.
If we did a British accent, I'd be down, but...
Yeah,
no.
Unfortunately, Russia isn't British.
Yeah.
You could try. Just
No,
see how that sounds.
We're not gonna try it. We're already recording, so... Alright, I guess we'll start. I'm also kind of sick, so...
Perish.
I will perish. America sighed as he sat down on a chair. He tried wiping the blood on his hands on his pants, but found that they were soaked entirely. He looked down at the CIA operative that he had for a companion since arriving in South America. Captain Daniels had been a Kentucky boy who'd learned his way around a gun, hunting rabbits with his brother, and later used those skills to rise in the army. He caught the attention of Langley shortly after his tour and been quite a good agent. He'd also just bled out while his country desperately tried to keep him alive.
Alfred looked into his opaque dead eyes. He'd watched the light go out of them just seconds ago, and he still thought that somehow, any moment, now they'd look back at him like they had before. He listened carefully for a sound. All he needed was a small little sound of breath that he'd jump back on the young man in a desperate bid to save him.
He heard a ragged breath, but didn't come for the captain. He finally looked away from Daniels to scan the room. They'd been ambushed by 5 KGB operatives in the hotel room they've been stayed at. I read that so weird.
It's okay.
They obviously didn't know they've been dealing with a country, or they wouldn't have made the mistake of only sending 5. They managed to dispatch the operatives, but Daniels has been caught up in a crossfire between them. America looked from operative to operative to see who it was that was still breathing a lot, while his Kentucky boy laid on the floor, getting cold by the moment.
Okay, I took some notes before we started, so just in case you're too young to have been in an American history class, the KGB is the Russian Committee of State Security. Hooray! And the CIA is the Central Intelligence Agency.
If you're too young to be in a history class, you shouldn't be on this.
Hey,
regardless.
Any viewers are good viewers.
Oh my god.
Just don't tell us your age, otherwise we'll have to, take action. So, gonna continue reading, The first 2 men had come in with their weapons at the ready, hoping to catch the Americans by surprise. Alfred had slammed the first of the men against the wall and heard his neck snap. The second had reached for his gun as Captain Daniel shot him twice at center mass. If he was the one still alive, he wouldn't live for long. The last three had returned fire from the doorway as the Americans dove for cover. One had managed to hit Alfred in the knee before the nation had reached his gun. Captain Daniels had shot that man in the stomach and the man behind him in the leg before taking a bullet to the chest and another in the arm. The last remaining KGB operative had taken 2 shots to the head by Alfred. The other operative previously shot in the leg had been finished off by Alfred with a point-blank shot in the head before he focused on Captain Daniels. That meant that the only man unaccounted for had been the one shot in the stomach.
Alfred found him just outside of the doorway in the hall. He'd managed to crawl a few feet, but he hadn't had the strength to continue. He pulled the man back into the room. His eyes were wild with fear and pain. "Do you speak English?" Wait, I didn't practice a voice. "Do you speak English?" asked Alfred as he grabbed his
I like you just used your normal speaking voice the second time as well.
Yes. I said fuck it in my mind.
Oh my god.
Asked Alfred as he grabbed his emergency supply case. He inspected it to see if that was his gun. Ammunition and money were all in order. He'd have to get out of the hotel as quickly as he could.
The operative looked back at him in panic. His injuries were bad, but he were taken immediately to a hospital.
Oh, that's me. "Do you speak English?" repeated Alfred again, as clearly as he could. He changed his clothing as he spoke. "Do you need help if you're going to live?" Wait. No, that was incorrect.
Do you need help?
Stop! I only have 3 brain cells. You need to let me finish.
All 3 of them have to work together in sync. They're standing in a long-ass trench coat trying to figure out how to move.
Yeah, and if you interrupt, they will go wild.
I like how if they would have a big hat and a big hat and a fake mustache.
Okay.
Walking around in a car dealership.
Well, they gotta hurry up, so let her continue.
"You need help if you're going to live, but I won't give it to you unless I get something in return."
"Please," said the man in heavily accented English.
"Good. I need to know where Vanya is. Do you know?"
The man shook his head, but Alfred had seen the light of recognition when he said the name. Vanya was a common nickname, but he was well aware, as far as the KGB and GRU were concerned, that there was only one Vanya they needed to worry about.
"Is that me?"
Yes.
"Oops. You won't make it much longer without help. If you survive today, you can worry tomorrow about surviving him."
I thought when you read the other KGB part, when it said KGB and GRU, I thought he was just going to say GRU. I was like, oh. Is that where they got his name from?
The man shook his head again. "I do not know."
Ooh.
Alfred looked down at
I'm trying my best, and you're laughing at me.
It was so good.
Since the attack, the second wave of operatives hadn't shown up, so this might be an isolated cell. If it was he might still be able to leave without running into anyone. But he had to leave very soon. "Last chance," said Alfred, looking back at the man.
"I do not know," he said again. "We were just sent to kill the other man. That is all we were told." You are going to laugh at me in my own house.
I'm in my house.
Your own domain.
I love it.
Continue reading. Stop laughing.
"You succeed." Alfred raising his gun and shooting the operative between the eyes. The man didn't even have time to react before his life was snuffed out.
Snuffled.
Oh, don't ever. Snuffled.
That's you, Niz.
Oh, okay. When he'd been younger? Does that say that?
I think it meant to say if he'd been younger.
When he'd be younger, he might have felt bad about lying to the man, but he'd grown used to it with time. He also knew he couldn't leave the man alive without alerting Russia to his presence. He'd know that from the moment he'd realized he was alive, but it hasn't stopped him from trying to use the man. It was cold action, but it was really the only one available to him.
He didn't even pause to think about the information he had just gotten from him before leaving the room. The CIA would no doubt have a theory as to why Daniels was targeted, but for the moment he needed to get moving. All that currently mattered is that the man had reacted to Ivan's name. He needed to get somewhere safe so he could figure out why the Russian was here. He made his way down the stairs into the hotel lobby. He was no longer covered in blood, but he hadn't looked in the mirror. Some signs of his struggle might still be visible. He went to the back of the hotel to exit through the kitchens.
He just made it into the hotel alley when he was suddenly pushed up against the building. He turned quickly to see who had pushed him and realized as he saw the blood on the wall next to him that he hadn't been pushed at all. He'd been shot with a gun so powerful that his body had been slammed against the building. He looked himself over in confusion but couldn't see where he'd been shot. He knew he had to get inside or run, but he couldn't seem to focus. He just kept looking himself over trying to find where the blood had come from. Suddenly, someone finally came up behind him and pushed him to the ground as they slammed a needle in his arm. As he felt them hold him down, he finally felt the wetness on his back. Oh well, at least he knew they were where the scar would be.
Damn.
Hell
I picked this fic thinking it'd be, like, nasty. But then it turned out to be like, I don't know. What the fuck is that movie name? I don't know.
My 3 brain cells came together for that one.
Alright, let's keep reading, because this one's actually kind of good, and I want to see how it ends.
I'll keep going. He came to what felt like days later, but it couldn't have been more than a few hours. He was sitting on a stool with his hands behind his back. He could see a red spot on his knees where the bullet wound had bled through. The blood had dried and turned dark brown, but it still ached. The same day then.
He focused on the floor as his head was still swimming. He tried to clear his mind, but all he could focus on were the details of the room. The floor was concrete and had been swept often. It was polished from all the care, even though it wasn't well made. People had been walking on it recently and had left dirt from heavy boots on it. No doubt the caretaker would resent that.
Alfred managed to lift his head up a bit to look forward at least. He found the room he was in had a window.
I love it. That was nice.
That was nice. They might prove important for his future. He heard a noise to his left and was just thinking of trying to make the effort to look in that direction when Ivan walked to stand in front of him. Alfred smiled. He was feeling very confused right now, and anything familiar was appreciated. Hello, Vanya.
Ivan smiled pleasantly back. Hello, Alfred. You've gotten yourself into some trouble.
Oh my god.
I'm trying my best, and I lost the accent again, so we're just gonna keep going.
Not me. Alfred, said Alfred, looking Ivan over. I'm not even officially here.
Of course, said Russia with the same smile. I meant to say that Captain Jones has gotten himself in a bit of trouble.
America thought this over. It made some sense, but not a lot. My head is weird. Can you help me?
I love it.
That's you. That's you, Niz.
Ivan thought this over before walking away. Alfred thought he'd left for good and grew worried for him. He felt something biting him in the arm and looked over to see it. Russia had poked him with a needle.
That should make you feel better, said Ivan, walking away again. I don't know why he's speaking so slow. Why am I speaking like...
He's trying to seduce him, that's why.
Ah, shut your mouth.
You just killing his character.
Quiet.
Just goddamn read.
That's you still.
Wait, is it me?
Yeah, we're just trying... Oh, what? It's still me? What?
No, who, me?
I guess it's me then.
You just said your quote and it's you.
Alfred waited, but didn't think he felt any better. He looked down at the brown stain on his pants and wondered if Russia would make fun of him for it. He opened his mouth to ask and threw up instead. He convulsed a second time, and the sudden movements made the world spin. He closed his eyes and tried not to throw up anymore. It was very hard.
That went hard. That turned a 360 real quick. You made a poo joke, and then you went to like a fucking vomit.
I don't know if it was a poo joke. It might have been a blood joke.
No, it was a brown stain on his pants. It's a poo joke.
Let's just keep reading, my god.
Okay. Something cold and wet touched his face and tried to clean him up. It felt nice. Hands then unbuttoned his shirt and cleaned his chest. He could smell the vodka on Ivan's breath even at this distance. He wondered how many hours ago the Russian had started drinking. By the time Russia finished cleaning him, he could reason a little more clearly, but he still didn't dare to open his eyes. That made me feel worse, said America, with a frown.
Do you want more painkillers? Asked Russia from somewhere to his left.
No, let's talk first, said Alfred. He could feel a small breeze on the areas Ivan had cleaned, and they felt great in the summer heat. What do you know? What do you want with me?
I am not sure, said Ivan. I didn't expect to find you here.
Bullshit. You set a trap for me at the hotel.
My information said the CIA agent was accompanied by a blonde man. I thought my 5 agents would take you both out.
Alfred managed to squint at Ivan. You really have been waiting with a shotgun in the alley. You wouldn't have been... Oh my god. You wouldn't have been waiting with a shotgun in the alley if that were true. You sacrificed those men to make me think I hadn't been identified.
You're feeling a lot better, said Ivan warmly.
Me.
Your agent said they were told to kill Daniels. You knew they wouldn't manage to take me out, but you wanted me to exit into the alleyway.
Ivan nodded. They were told to kill the CIA agent and run. If you were who I thought you were, you would follow them into the alley. I got lucky that you chose the same way to leave.
Which meant Daniels wouldn't have died if Alfred hadn't been with him. He felt too sick to feel guilty, but he knew it would come. So, what do you want with me?
Russia laughed. I truly do not know. I just thought it would be fun to have you.
I don't know who reads that paragraph.
Let's just have Niz read.
Alright. America sighed. He hated when Russia acted this way. He was feeling too sick to even try to coax?
Yeah.
Coax answers out from the other nation. Alfred pulled out the restraints on his wrist. From what he could tell, they were a normal pair of handcuffs. He couldn't feel anything connected to them. Couldn't feel anything connected to them. Couldn't feel anything connected to the ground. He could be out of them in the moment. He pictured himself free of them and on his feet. What could he do then? Throw up on Russia, probably. This.
What could he do then? I don't know. Throw up on him.
It was tempting, but didn't solve anything. I think it would solve something. Throw up on someone.
Wait, isn't that Oh man, that reminds me of. Have you guys ever seen the Monty Python?
Yeah.
Holy Grail? A flesh wound. Yeah.
Oh
and it's
yeah.
like he's got no limbs and he's kind of jumping and he's like, "What are you gonna do? Bleed on me?" And he's like, "I'll bite your ankles off." That's me. That's this situation.
I love it.
He jumps out of the handcuffs and he goes, he's like, "What are you gonna do? Vomit on me?" And he goes, "Ha!"
I love it.
Let's just keep continuing. I'm a little tired.
That sounds great. We can have a sleepover and do each other's hair, said Alfred, finally finding the energy to look around the room. It was a small mud room of sorts that he could see led to a large, beautiful garden. The door to his right was open to the garden, while an open entryway to his left led to the inside of the home. Also on his left was a small table with syringes, pills, and all sorts of bottles. Ivan was planning a party.
I like this sarcasm with this person. This writer's actually good. I'm happy you are so excited, but I think I have a better idea, said Ivan, going up to the table.
Ivan, come on. Didn't you ever hear my first lady? Just say no.
Reagan jokes, what the fuck?
Oof. We can have fun without all that.
Fucking Nancy Reagan jokes? Oh my god.
What did she do?
You never heard of the Ronald Reagan just say no to drugs campaign?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nancy Reagan was like the first lady, and she was kind of all about that as well. Yeah.
Oh.
Anyways. The Russian didn't answer him. He grabbed a small clear bottle in hand and a small silver tray. He also kicked a chair that had been in the corner of the room so that it was right in front of Alfred. Ivan sat down before him and put down the tray on the ground. Alfred saw that it was actually full of small surgical tools. He opened his mouth to ask Russia what exactly he thought he was going to do with the tools, but before he could say anything, Russia poured some of the liquid from the bottle over the wound on his knee. His scream rung in his own ears. Russia frowned. Do not be a baby. Oh, you gotta yell. Yell. Do it.
I'm not yelling. My mom is asleep.
Then whisper yell.
Oh, please.
Go. Can I? Go fuck yourself, you crazy commie motherfucker. America focused on trying to get his hands free. He needed to get out of here as soon as possible.
Russia put a hand on his chest. You're too weak to get away, and if you break the handcuffs, I will drug you again.
Mood.
Go ahead, Niz.
America glared at the man in front of him, but didn't fight against his handcuffs. The Russian ripped open his... Oh my god.
No, it's not what you think. Keep reading.
Okay. Ripped open his hand to have better access to the wound. But the bullet was still stuck inside Alfred. In a horrible moment, he thought Ivan might try to look for it. The Russian thankfully knew better, and instead started preparing a needle and thread to sew up the injury. America what is that word? I cannot read it. Gritted his teeth throughout the process, as Russia wasn't a particularly gentle nurse, but he wasn't malicious either. When he'd finished, America expected him to put away his tools, but instead found the Russian motioning him to turn around.
Your back is much worse. We need to clean it at least.
Am I reading that?
Go ahead.
Alfred tensed at the idea of having alcohol poured down his back. He could try resisting, but Ivan might really drug him again. He swiveled on the stool, so his back was to Ivan. The alcohol burned horribly, but this time he managed not to scream by clenching his teeth. His whole face ached with the effort. What? Yeah, okay. The remnant of his shirt was stripped off him to get to the injuries. The center of his back was the worst hit, so Ivan pieced it together as best as he could. A normal human would have died, but Alfred would not only survived, he would be back to normal in a few days. The scar might take a few months to disappear, but they would with time. Only the scars that remained on them were those that represented their history.
That's fucking gay, and I love that, actually.
Oh my god.
Dude, have you seen a shotgun wound? Shit hurts, but like, alright, that was bomb. Whoever wrote this fic, hey, shout out to you, because you're fucking great.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna read this part, so. Ivan covered the injuries with gauze. He had to wrap Alfred's back by encircling him in his arms as he ran the material, but when he finished, to Alfred's surprise, his arms remained firmly around him. At this distance, the vodka smell on his breath was overpowering.
Ivan? What are you doing?
The pressing of lips to his neck made his eyes open wide with shock. It couldn't be.
Oh my god.
Oh, you gotta be sarcastic. You better be... You better be.
Can you let me do what I need to do?
Yes.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Happy day now.
Tell me all of this wasn't foreplay, he said America with his horror and with horror in his voice.
Ivan chuckled softly next to his ear. All right, it was not foreplay. I'll go, I guess. The Russian lowered a hand to cup America through what was left of his pants. He massaged him as he suckled on his shoulders. The physical contact might have caused an unwanted physical reaction in the American on another day, but between the blood loss and painkillers, he didn't have any energy to react with.
Nearly half a decade of a Cold War, and you pull this now? This isn't even how it's done anymore, Ivan. All the bullshit about vital regions is laughed out of the UN these days, said Alfred, leaning back against him. He was surprised at how detached he was about what was going on. He was too weak to even care.
Sometimes the old ways are the best, said Russia as he grinded up against America's back. He seemed to give up on getting any sort of reaction from America's member and moved his hand up instead to his stomach.
What happened to always moving forward to a glorious future? Asked Alfred. He was practically in Russia's lap at this point, but he didn't care. He even leaned his head back until it fit comfortably against the hollow in Ivan's neck. He was in danger of falling asleep snuggled up against his worst enemy if he got any more comfortable.
Things change, was the only response from the voice above him. Russia seemed to realize that America might lose consciousness. He leaned over slightly to take something from the tray on the floor and pushed it up against America's lips.
America looked down to see the pill and tried to pull his head away. Russia's arms around him tightened like iron clamps. I don't want it, said America with clenched teeth.
It will make things easier for you, said Russia warmly as he kissed the side of America's face. You will be in a lot of pain soon.
Oh my god.
Painkillers are wearing off, you kinky hoe. Get out of here.
America thought over his options again. He could guess what the pill would be, but he didn't want to make things any easier for Ivan. I'd rather take the pain.
Okay, go ahead, Ms.
I'm trying to skim ahead.
Don't try to skim ahead, just read.
I'm
just
nervous.
Read and then cry as you read it.
That's
Ivan clicked his tongue in disappointment. but he put the pill in his pocket, let go of Alfred, and stood to put the tray back on the table. Alfred's world swam at the lack of support as he almost fell off the chair. He just managed to regain it when Russia came back and backhanded him. Alfred didn't even feel the blow. His world has just exploded of pain across his face and on his back as he was thrown off the chair to the floor from the strength of it. He focused on breathing and tried to get the world to stop spinning. Before he could manage it, Ivan's foot slammed onto his stomach, and dove his breath from him again. The Russian didn't stop. He slammed his foot over and over into Alfred's body as the American curled in on himself. Instinctively, Alfred's world was one of pain and fear as he anticipated each hit. Finally, Russia's foot slammed on his head, and Alfred stopped thinking.
Alfred could hear sounds and see colors around him, but he didn't know what they meant. A soft cooing noise above him scared him somehow, but he couldn't stop himself from following its orders. Something small was put into his mouth and washed down with a liquid that made his throat burn. He tried to cough and nearly choked. The cooing noise was next to his ear now, and he could feel things being taken off of him. The breeze on his skin felt good and reminded him that he had a body and a face. He remembered himself as the room came into focus.
Ivan had him naked on a bed with clean sheets. The handcuffs were gone for some reason as well. Perhaps the Russia rightly understood that the American was in no state to put up a fight. The smell of Alfred's blood overpowered the room. Whatever Ivan had given him was strong enough to allow him to lift his head and look around. Ivan was at the foot of the bed staring at him. He had a half-empty bottle of vodka in one hand and his...
Okay.
Oh, I just looked back at what you were reading. Shit. Okay.
I love how that caught you by surprise.
They're going right into it, okay.
You better read the whole sentence again.
Yeah. I was not expecting that.
I love how both of you went silent and me zoning out and imagining what the room must have looked like. And I was like, oh, okay, it's a white bed. It must have like an oak wood frame. The walls are white. It's probably daytime.
Daytime?
Yeah, it's definitely daytime.
And things are always in nighttime for me, no matter what situation.
It's mid-afternoon.
It's me time.
Go.
He had half an empty bottle of vodka in one hand and his penis in the other. He had seemed to be having a little effect on it.
His hand. He had.
Oh my god. His hand seemed to be having little effect on it. Oh, that's me.
You gonna speak?
I'm sorry, I was reading it. My brain wasn't comprehending what the words were saying.
You were just looking at it and you were like, okay, I'm reading it.
Me? Oh my god.
I've been doing that a lot lately, where I think I'm doing something in real life, but then it's just in my head, or the other way around when I do it out loud.
You said like 8 things out loud at my house that you were like, and then you were like, oh shit, I said that out loud? So I have to imagine what you're trying to say to me that you never actually vocalize. And you're like, man, she must be fucking ignoring me. God. Okay, just speak.
Okay,
just keep going.
Why do it if you have to work yourself up to it? Asked Alfred with curiosity.
The Russian smiled at him in that horrible way of his. He looked as if he was only discussing the weather. You do not understand. You never have. In the end, we must both play our parts.
Is today the end? Asked Alfred in confusion. If nuclear war was about to happen, fate should have made sure he was in his country.
No, said Russia, taking another drag from his bottle. But it comes soon.
Alfred shivered. The drug Russia had given him was making him feel quite warm. Of course it does. He wanted Russia's cold skin against him.
Oh my god.
What?
This gay.
Big mover.
Fingers in his ass.
Stop. Do not do this here.
No.
Shut your goddamn mouth and never open
it
again.
Keep going.
Because if you start, I will end it.
Go.
We might as well get it over with then. I need to go home.
That's a very gay mood right there.
Russia nodded and grabbed a bottle from the floor. He climbed onto the bed and pushed America onto his stomach. Alfred barely felt any pain as he did so. He wondered idly if Russia had given him more drugs before the pill. Oh, that's you, Niz.
The bottle turned... What?
I feel like...
Is that me?
No.
I'll read that. Please can I read that instead of all the paragraphs?
Okay, we will let you off the hook this time.
The bottle turned out to be oil. Alfred focused on it and tried to reason what it was needed for. He had never done anything like what Ivan was planning.
I just read my first line.
Shh.
We're stupid. Keep reading.
He should have been scared. Hell, he should have been terrified. He was too confused and tired to be terrified. He just wanted everything to be over before that changed.
Russia poured the oil on him and put a hand on his buttocks. Alfred's breath hitched as he felt Russia push himself against
Push
him.
inside him. You're like, come on, let's get going.
Fingers
You
in
better
his-
keep.
Russia was only half hard, and he ended up just rubbing himself against him. Ivan cursed out. Oh my god. Ivan cursed under his breath and paused to do something Alfred couldn't see before trying again. He seemed to be trying to get himself hard. Alfred felt the flesh push against him, but nothing changed. The Russian rubbed himself over and over on Alfred, but his penis only seemed to become more flaccid. This repeated for a few minutes until the oil was spread all over them both. Ivan let himself go to do something again.
I like how this is like, the fic is so accurate to real life that they even include just a little bit of erectile dysfunction. Just for flavor. I'm gonna keep reading. Alfred missed the contact. He tried to turn around, but Ivan pushed him back on his stomach. A warmth had been building in his stomach every time Russia had rubbed up against him, and he could feel a stirring in his groin. No doubt this was what Russia had meant by the pill making this easier.
He gave him Viagra.
Big mood. I thought that's what you said, was big mood.
No, I said he gave him Viagra.
Big mood. Okay.
Have you ever done this before? Alfred asked Alfred with something more like frustration. Oh!
I hit, at the beginning of the fic, I hit that into Google Translate. I, skimmed over and I went, alright, let's put this into Google Translate. Apparently it means, shut up. And it said, Zatknis.
Ooh.
Said Ivan as he walked away from the bed. He started throwing things around the room as he looked for something. Yeah, so now you know. Hey, your daily Russian lesson from a fellow Greek. Zatknis.
From a fellow
Shut up. Zatknis.
Shut up.
You didn't use your word correctly, baby.
Eat my ass or be quiet.
Zatknis, my guy.
I haven't, said Alfred. I was about to say controversial. That's not correct.
Oh my god, Izzy, what is going on with your mic? Oh my god.
He managed to turn himself
to
the side and tried to focus on the Russian. Ivan wasn't steady on his feet and wobbled as he walked around. He made Alfred's head spin with all the movement.
Finally, Ivan found what he was looking for and returned to the bed. Ivan opened up a small pill bottle in his hand and managed to get one of the pills inside. He didn't immediately take it, however. Instead, he held it up and stared at it. Alfred stared at it too.
Is that going to allow you to hurt me?
Ivan looked away from the pill and down at him. I have already hurt you.
That's meta. That's super gay.
Fucking gay. Okay.
The warmth in Alfred's stomach was growing worse. He was half-hard himself at this point, and with Russia looming above him, he couldn't stop his uninjured leg from brushing against the other man. You've shot me before. I've shot you before. This is an old game. You don't want to change it. Alfred wasn't sure what he expected. Trying to convince Ivan to do something almost always resulted in him doing the opposite. Nizzy, we got 3 sentences.
Alfred was sure he was right though. Ivan didn't want to do this. He wondered why he was.
Russia looked back at the pill once more before throwing it against the wall. Alfred's confused brain followed its trajectory, so he didn't notice the Russian bending over him until he felt his mouth on his neck. Alfred turned a face to try to kiss him, but Ivan turned his face away. This annoyed Alfred somewhat until he felt Ivan take hold of his penis. He gasped and tried to pull Ivan as close to him as he could. No matter what he did, he couldn't get enough contact. Ivan's hand job wasn't very good, but in Alfred's current state, it felt like heaven. Without thinking, Alfred palmed Ivan's half-hard penis and stroked. Ivan tried to pull away, but a needy groan from Alfred stopped him. They both tried to get the other off as they intertwined on the bed.
Nice.
Oh, fucking listen to this shit coming up.
Yeah, stop it. Oh, I read what you had to say. Ivan's earlier problem was a non-issue as he got closer and closer to coming in Alfred's care.
Nice.
Suddenly, Ivan pulled away. Alfred moaned in frustration as Ivan moved to grab something from the bedside. Russia came up holding the vodka bottle and opened it above America. He poured what was left of the bottle over America's face, making him cough. What the fuck?
You better cough, baby.
Drowning? Is that a real kink?
Give us your best cough.
Wait, he literally just waterboarded him.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Yeah.
Is
I don't
waterboarding
know. Homie, if you've been around for as long as you've been around, it takes a little bit more to get you off later on.
Oh my god. I'd like to imagine when the terrorists get waterboarded, they're like, tricks on you. I like this shit.
Stop it.
Shut your fucking mouth. Oh my god.
Hey.
So, let me keep reading because, open your mouth, said Russia as America turned his face away.
Alfred followed his order in hope that it would get him to touching him again. Once his mouth was full of vodka, the Russian spoke again. That's you.
Oh, spit it out.
Alfred obeyed with the command eagerly as he realized what was happening. Russia did it twice more before finally leaning over and kissing him.
America wrapped his arms around the Russian as his mouth was invaded. Ivan wasn't a very good kisser either, but Alfred was in no state to care. He wanted contact desperately, but Russia finally took hold of his penis again, and America returned the favor. I love how Finally, a few minutes later, a groan escaped the man above him, and he stopped moving as Alfred felt his penis spasm in his hand.
His penis?
his beepus. Beepus.
Here, I'll read the next.
And I guess I'll read after that, so.
Yeah. Russia went limp as the extra weight put pressure on his injured back that often enjoyed the feeling of having Ivan's in his arms. Sated. When the Russian made a move to wrap his arms more tightly around him, Alfred was so hard. His penis was bumping against Ivan's stomach. Once he caught his breath, Ivan kissed him again.
Man, this person's got some big ass paragraphs. Not that it's bad, but because it means I have to read more, so.
Oh, me.
That's me, so.
We got a lot left, too.
Let me go, ordered Ivan as he tried to lean back to look at him. Alfred reluctantly did so, but to his surprise, Ivan just moved down his body. When Ivan reached his groin, he leaned forward and took the tip of his member in his mouth. Alfred gasped and thrust up involuntarily. Russia leaned back against the thrust, but didn't seem bothered by it. He suckled on the tip as his hands grabbed at his hips. He didn't seem to know what to do, but eventually tried to take more of Alfred into his mouth. The movement was awkward and hesitant, and overall Russia was very bad at it, but America didn't give a shit. He put a hand in the Russian's hair and tried to thrust shallowly into him again. This was allowed, and Alfred took full advantage of it. He thrust up again and again into the Russian's mouth as it swallowed him. The sight and feeling were too much, and in minutes America had found that sweet spot that sent him over the edge. He climaxed into Ivan's mouth and saw him startle as the first of his cum hit the back of his throat. He tried to swallow it but gave up and let it dribble out of his mouth and onto Alfred's legs.
His 1 inch of pre-cum.
You are going to continue to reference that fic at a time like this?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It was not pre-cum, it was actual cum from his 9 inches of dirt.
From his 10-foot.
His 10-foot snake.
No.
And the 11-foot limo. Okay, we need to stop.
Just start reading.
Alfred closed his eyes and focused on the feel of Ivan's hair in his hands. He was tired beyond belief and only wanted to curl up around the Russian as he drifted off. Ivan asked him a question, but he was already drifting in and out of consciousness. The Russian moved and Alfred lost the feeling of his hair in his hand. He tried to open his eyes to look for him, but he felt Russia's arms wrapped around him as he laid on the bed behind him. He leaned against him and knew no more.
Oh. Alright. He woke up again hours later to a dark room. He desperately needed to go to the restroom, but he couldn't figure out where he was. He tried to get up to only manage to stumble off the bed. Every part of his body screamed with pain. He gave up the idea of trying to find a restroom and pissed on the floor. Big mood.
Me.
At least he didn't have to, like, shit. At least it was just like, some dude comes up, sees the piss stain on the carpet, he's like, huh.
I wouldn't imagine it'd be carpet. I would imagine it'd still be like tile or something.
Ew, hardwood.
Stop it.
You're gonna fucking dribble your piss on my hardwood floors, I'd kick your ass. Stick your
Part of
nose
my
in it.
salad?
And it would like splat everywhere since it's like hard tile. It'd be like, pss, pss, and it'd be like,
Shut your mouth, let you go. Oh my god.
it would look like the Nickelodeon,
Fucking Nickelodeon logo as he walks around it. He gets a little bit of piss on his foot, and he's like, ah, fuck.
Fucking read the piss.
Okay.
Do you aim at that point, or you just stand and piss right directly on the ground? Let you
Read?
know why.
God,
I think he'd try to aim it as far away from him because you wouldn't want piss on your feet.
Just in the corner of the room.
Oh my god.
Wait, one more thing before we go.
Listen, we come from experience.
Wait, one more thing before you go. Have you ever seen that picture, and it's like the guy's nephew or something, and he's been pissing in a drawer for 3 months? And I'm just
God.
avoid crying in a drawer full of piss.
Oh, ew.
It's disgusting.
No, we haven't seen that yet, nasty.
Oh, I'll find it. Hold on.
No.
No, have you guys seen that one? I don't know what it's like. It's like a challenge where guys will try to piss, and they have they'll have like a circle finger or whatever, and they'll just piss through that little target. It's the best.
Yeah.
And they'll have like other people's fingers, circle fingers, and they'll piss through it. It's amazing. Anyways, let me be He knew he couldn't stay where he was, but he couldn't find the energy to move. He crawled back into the bed. I like how he crawled. That means he must have hit the floor. So he just lied in his piss for a little bit. He crawled.
Wait, I found it. There you go.
He crawled. I don't want to see it. He crawled into the bed.
Just for later.
And laid there, tried to conquer the ache of his body. The room came into focus as his eyes adjusted to the light. He was... Sorry. He crawled back into the bed and trying to conquer the ache of his body. The room came into focus as his eyes... Oh wait, I've already read that sentence. I'm fucking crazy. He was in the bedroom Russia had taken him into. Evan was nowhere to be seen, and all of their clothes were gone. He saw something next to him on the bed and picked it up. It was a piece of paper and a small pill was taped onto it. The words "only for pain" were written in a familiar hand in English. Alfred took off the pill and swallowed it. He laid in bed as he waited for it to have an effect.
There's lots of pill popping in this, damn.
As his pain dulled, he took in more of the room. It smelled of blood, piss, and sex. He himself smelled mostly of vodka, but he was covered in all sorts of fluids. After what seemed like an eternity, the pain reduced enough to allow him to stand up. He could see 2 doors in the room. The first led to the rest of the house, and the second led to a small bathroom. Oh, that's when you find the bathroom. He managed to get into the shower and turn on the water. The aches in his muscles were somewhat soothed by the hot water, but it made the rest of him feel sluggish. He didn't even bother with soap. The water ran brown with dried blood, so he tried to take stock of his injuries. His gunshot wounds still hurt badly. His back would be hideous for a while until he could heal. He suspected his ribs had been broken, but they seemed to be on the mend already.
He made it out of the shower and went to look... Oh my god. He made it out of the shower and went to try to look at the rest of the house. To his relief, he found a closet full of clothing right outside of the room he'd been in. Men and women's clothing was hung neatly, and baby clothes were folded in a dresser. He wondered briefly about the owners of the house, but tried his best to put it out of his mind. He probably didn't want to know that story. The man's clothing was a little tight, but he managed to find something to fit him. Shoes were a bigger problem, but he found a pair of sandals that fit him all right.
Oh, ew, I'm imagining, have you ever seen the guy, and he's like the little wizard with the sunglasses, and he's got that really ugly outfit on? It's the 80s, buddy. Like, ew.
Oh my god.
Okay, that's you, Niz.
Alright. He explored the rest of the house, but he found nothing of note. Nothing of note. Oh my god. He found nothing of note. He finally he made it to the kitchen and found a telephone. He picked up the line, and to his relief, the dial tone came on. He wondered if Ivan had the line tapped for information, but he knew even if he did, it didn't have the energy to leave the country by himself.
He called his emergency contact number and heard all hell break loose on the other side. Helicopters and agents were scrambled at a moment's notice. Langley and half of Washington was woken up when he relayed Ivan's message of the end happening soon. Less than 15 minutes after hanging up, he was being escorted into a vehicle on his way to an airport. Half an hour later, he was in the air and on his way back home. He wondered if the body of Captain Daniels was somewhere in the cargo bay. Alfred leaned his head against the cool glass of the plane as agents around him tried to debrief him. He wanted sleep, but knew that he wouldn't get it tonight.
Don't you hate when, like, only one of your fingers falls asleep and you're like, please stop?
I have this.
No.
I have this on my right hand.
Zombie?
On my right hand, my ring finger gets this bad nerve pain every once in a while, and I can't move it. So you see me like grabbing things, but my ring finger is just sticking out wildly because I can't bend it at all.
Well, like my whole fucking pinky's like
Your
asleep.
pinky's
right now.
gone.
Anyway,
No, do you guys ever get like foot cramp? Like you move your foot in like one position and then all your fingers start to go fucking different directions.
All your fingers start going different directions? Shit.
Terrible.
Oh, okay. Anyways.
He told them about his original mission, how Daniels had died and how Ivan had beat him. Everything beyond that became a practice tale of fiction. He could see doubts in some of their faces. If he had been human, they might have questioned. Yeah, if he had been human, he might have questioned why Ivan had let him go so easily, but no one could question the loyalty of their own nation.
Once in Washington, he was passed from one department to another. Each one checked sources and information, trying to see what exactly Ivan could have been talking about when he spoke about the end. Nada was informed, of course. They all had questions that Alfred was in no mood. So once they had been told the basic facts, Alfred refused to take phone calls. Arthur and Matthew were not pleased with the official statement, of course, but they could not voice their true displeasure in such a diplomatically delicate time.
Finally, at noon of the following day, the United States of America was allowed to relax. All departments had been allowed to question him, no credible Soviet threats could be found by himself or his allies, and Alfred's continued involvement wasn't necessary.
Alfred went home. He felt like sleeping until the end of the 20th century. He walked into his quiet Washington home and found it was hard to imagine that the last 48 hours had happened. He'd had a shower since coming home, but he took another one just to be sure. He couldn't get the vodka smell out of his nose. He went to his bedroom and laid down to see, but couldn't see, but seemed to lose consciousness even with the medication the Pentagon doctors had prescribed.
Oh, an idea came to him as he lay there and picked up the phone next to his bed and dialed a number that he hadn't dialed in years.
I guess I'll be Lithuania then?
I'll be Lithuania if you want.
Okay, do it.
How do you even say that?
Alio?
Alio?
Yeah.
Answered his sleep. Oh, he answered sleepily, so it's like Alio.
Yeah.
Answered his sleepy voice on the other side of the world.
Don't tell me you're already asleep. Those Soviets must be working you pretty hard, said Alfred, glancing at the digital clock on his nightstand. It was only a 7-hour difference after all.
The line went silent for a moment. Alfred?
How's it going, tourist? He asked with a smile on his face. He couldn't picture his friend's bewilderment.
He spooked.
Alfred, why are you calling me? What is the matter?
Oh, that's me. It really had been a long time. He'd forgotten how panicked Lithuania could act. Although perhaps in this instance, it was warranted. Taurus, I need to ask you something. I know I'm asking a lot, but I think you're the only one who can help me. Is something wrong with Russia?
Lithuania went quiet on the other side of the line. He was under very strict rule when it came to speaking to America, and he could no doubt get in trouble for answering such a question.
Alfred didn't want to see his friend hurt, but nuclear war was not something to be taken lightly. I need to know, Taurus, for everyone's sake. He's not acting like himself.
I know, it's just things are changing around here.
I've heard about some of the changes, Taurus.
Gorbachev?
I know. I just... my brain died. Gorbachev's policies.
It isn't just policies, Alfred, said Taurus, cutting him off. Everything is changing. The people, the parties. They're losing control. If we're lucky and we're careful, we might be able to get free.
Are you sure? America asked in shock. Do you think he will let you go?
I'm not sure, but things have changed so much. We all have. Not even he can stop it. He will try, of course, but that's what scares us all. We don't know how far he's willing to go to remain in control.
Alexis.
America thought of that. It fit with what Russia had said about the end. If he really thought he was about to lose all his power, it made sense that he'd want to win one last victory over Alfred. He'd wondered what it meant for them. It meant for them all that Ivan hadn't been able to finish that last awful step.
Thank you for telling me, Taurus. I know how dangerous this can be for you.
Lithuania chuckled darkly into the phone. It is dangerous for all of us. You two should worry about what he will do when he finally knows it is the end. He might do something mad. You need to be careful.
Alfred's mind ran back to that horrible bed, and he closed his eyes.
Sleep here.
The piss drawer.
Stop speaking.
No.
I need to go, Alfred. I will call you, hopefully soon.
Good luck, said Alfred at the line, and the line went dead and a second later.
Alfred put the phone down and thought things over. He wondered if independence for Taurus was even possible. Russia could be very violent when his power was threatened. He too prayed that his friends stayed safe. America finally laid his head down to sleep. He, like the rest of the world, would have to wait and see. The world was about to change drastically, and Russia wouldn't be able to stop it. Alfred wondered just how lonely and afraid his rival would be once he was all alone. That thought was his last before he fell asleep and helped to chase away his nightmares. Oh fuck, how did that song go? God damn it.
What song?
On and just another brick in the wall.
Stop.
I just had to give him some soundtrack for the beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna read the notes just real quick. So, this note said, wrote this after watching The Hunt for Red October and Patriot Games. The beginning is certainly inspired by that. The rest is just trying to get into the head of a falling empire. A sequel detailing the events before the 1991 coup is half written and should be up soon. That was after this was published in 2016.
That was 2016?
Yeah.
That's so bad for a 2016 fic.
Oh my god, you are like a connoisseur of fucking Hetalia fics now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like she actually is. That's the thing.
That's the problem.
Well, it's... okay, when you love a fandom so very much, an anime like I do, you really get your head deep into some weird shit.
That's
and
fucking,
you love it.
Okay, I can't see once I started allowing myself to obsess over Metalocalypse, I guess that's given me no room to speak anymore about anything because I am the same way. Anyways,
in the sense of Hetalia fanfictions, that was a pretty good one. Like we can really nice.
We can continue this conversation a little later. However, let's tell them where they can find us at. You can find us at eroticapodcast@gmail.com, our Twitter at ESE podcast with 2 T's, and our Instagram at ESE Podcast with 1T. I am Apollo, this is Meatloaf, and our special guest was Nizay. And and we're glad to have been reading, yes. Okay, we'll catch y'all later with a fic that isn't this.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.